Hello, everybody. This is Purge bringing you guys the first person replay commentary. I decided today was the day I'm going to make a Skeleton King game. A bit about that, if you guys haven't checked out the new Dota 2 news, there's a Frostivus patch coming up, which is the Dota 2 winter event, basically. So if you want to check that out, I'll put a link in the drop-down box below so you can check that out. But it isn't completely formalized yet, but it looks like they're going to be largely changing the Skeleton King and possibly Queen of Pain as well. If you're confused about this, it's basically another thing where Valve is covering their butts in case Blizzard, for some weird reason, ever decides to sue them. So they just really want to make sure that they never have to deal with that. So they're changing a lot of their IPs, not necessarily their IPs, but IPs that are maybe a little wishy-washy so that there's no way in hell that they could get sued over it. So other examples of this is like Obsidian Destroyer or I don't remember. I think he was Obsidian Destroyer originally. Now he's like Outworld Devourer or something. But they changed the names. They changed some of the likenesses so that he eventually will be not copyrighted. So I played a game of Skeleton King last night and it went well. So I wanted to make a video of it before he gets changed. I hear he's going to be changed to Spectre. No. What was it, Wraith King or something like that? I think Wraith King is what I heard. I don't know where people got that from, maybe from like chat logs or something, but I heard Wraith King is what they're going to change him to, but I'm not completely sure about that. So also, I'm still really food comaed right now because I ate an entire pizza today and I'm completely wrapped in a blanket. So if I really mess up a lot in this video, please excuse me. Okay, first things first. Skeleton King is an extremely manly hero, and this is because he only has one button to press. It's basically just you throw your stun. You used to have two. They changed it to 2 skills for a couple months, maybe a year. His third skill, Mortal Strike, would reduce your opponent's total HP, which I believe is the last time I made a video. It was in July of Skeleton King. But it's not like that anymore. They actually changed it back to a passive crit, and to buff the fact that they technically made Mortal Strike worse again, they gave him like an extra 5 intelligence at level 1, which is a huge difference. Previously, he used to only have about 200 mana with some Ironwood branches. Now he's got 260, well, less than that. He'll have like, what, 240 about? A little bit less than that. A little less than 240 intelligence, or mana at level 1. So this actually impacts him in quite a couple different ways, mostly because of the fact that you actually do have to stun a lot as this hero. So first things first, we had a little bit of an argument about who was going to be farming a pair of Silencer. It was like, oh, I'm going to farm Silencer. And I was like, this is stupid. Like, Skeleton King and Tusk were picked before you pick Silencer. So, so we argued a little bit, and we had some last-hitting problems, we'll just say. But it was very short. It'll end up being okay. So at first I was kind of like, I guess I'm pulling, but then I was like, this is stupid. Who's going to out-carry versus a PL? It's definitely not going to be Silencer, because Silencer doesn't have AoE, because he's a ranged hero, unless he gets a Mjolnir or something stupid as hell. That's not worth it. Don't get a Mjolnir, by the way. So anyways, I'm going to farm. Okay, first things first. Starting item build, I got a Stout Shield. I ended up mostly randoming, so I have a little bit less gold because I swapped, but I have a Stout Shield, I have a Salve Tango, and I got a Clarity Potion because that'll give me an extra stun later in the game. So I also had extra gold, so I bought a Circlet. I bought a Circlet because it's going to save me 1 space. I could have bought 2 Ironwood branches and gotten the same amount of stats, but I'd rather buy the Circlet and then buy boots shortly after getting 500 gold, and then I'll be absolutely set into having a Circlet and boots. So I was a little greedy on that. But to talk more about his stat change, again, he did get buffed in the last patch, 5 extra int at level 1. Every int point gives you 13 mana. So if you have 5 of that, it gives you 65 extra mana pool. So he actually has a lot more mana at level 1 compared to what he did before, which is, it's not half of a stun, but it's quite a bit of a stun. So it's a huge difference. It really is a really big difference in mana pool at level 1. So your hero basically just kind of relies on right-clicking and attack moving and doing stuns at appropriate times. So a lot of the times that I do stun a hero, you'll see me move between attacks. I'll attack, I'll move, I'll attack, I'll move. And that usually gives me a 3rd hit or a 4th hit maybe instead of 1 less. So attack moving is really important on melee heroes like Skeleton King. Like, as a whole, this hero is actually very easy to kite away from. So right there I hit twice and then I stunned, and now I'm gonna hit 2. I'm gonna go for a 3rd hit, but he's still gonna die over here. Does end up getting killed, so really good for us. Silencer kind of almost dies to creeps, but it works out alright. And this is basically what you do as Skeleton King. You do a lot of attack moving, and he's actually really good as a carry in a lane because he does have a stun. Most carries actually don't have stuns, so having a ranged stun like this is really nice. So yeah, I'm just going to clarity up a bit to get my mana pool back up so that I'll have more stuns and things are going to be all okay. So to talk about a little bit about the hero's strengths and weaknesses. Number 1 is that you have a disable. It actually does okay damage. At level 2, I'm doing 100 damage plus 30 damage over time. It does a slow now, one of the other buffs that's gotten over the year or two. 20% slow for 2 seconds, so it does 100 damage, and it also does 30 damage for 2 seconds. So it means at level 4, it does 300 damage, which kind of sucks. I'll say it. The damage is not that amazing, but it's not bad. It's mostly damage up front with a little damage over time. But the important part is that it stuns for 2 seconds, and it's an 8-second cooldown. So having some way to afford your mana is really important on this hero, because otherwise people they're just gonna walk away from you. You don't have a slow, other than the stun. Like literally, your main disable is your first skill. So making sure that you actually have mana to afford this is really important. And this is more important later when you hit level 6, because when you hit level 6, the way your ulti works is if you die and you have 140 mana and this isn't off cooldown, you'll revive and you won't actually die. It also slow by 50% for possibly 3 seconds. I'm not entirely sure on that one just yet. But basically, you need to have at least 140 mana before you die. And the easiest way to end up doing this is just to make sure that you have at least a magic stick in your inventory. And I do have one right here. I've got a 3-charge stick. Anytime somebody casts, that's going to give me an extra 15 mana. So if I get this up to 10 charges, and then I use it, it'll give me 150 mana, which is beautifully just enough to throw another Hellfire Blast or be able to reincarnate. So it's really important that you actually do grab a magic stick, because once you grab reincarnation, or even in the early levels here, the extra mana can really make a difference between whether you get a kill or not, because stuns, again, are massive and huge and very powerful. 2-second stun at all levels is very strong. So something important to remember. This game I grabbed Vampiric Aura at level 2. Wait, before I go into the other stats, the other thing that I want to mention, in the past when I played Skeleton King, I would get stats at levels 2 and 4 because his int pool was very, very low, but now I changed that up. I like getting the other skills at 2 and 4 because you actually have enough mana from the change. So, luckily for me, Curse of the Silent's going to get the kills, so we get some more gold and EXP and we can walk away. So, really good for us here. But anyways, I like grabbing Vampiric Aura at level 2 now. It actually does give lifesteal for ranged heroes as well, so that means the Silencer in my lane actually gets HP from right-clicking. This does push the creeps very, very slightly, but the creeps do about 20 damage, so if they're lifestealing about 15%, that means that they're getting between 2 and 4 HP every time they attack, which is very, very little. So it's a very small impact on the amount of the lane pushing. It does make a difference, but your total HP is a bit more important than the creeps pushing, so I think grabbing an early Vampiric Aura is completely worth it. Again, it only gives me like 10 HP per swing right now, but it's something that'll help me regen up slowly over the course of the battle. So, max crit as your second skill. I like to get one early Vampiric Aura, and then I just leave it at that, and then I max Mortal Strike after my stun is completely finished. In other games in the past, I've seen other players do this as well. They'll maybe only get 2 Hellfire Blasts because the stun duration is the same, and the scaling damage is really not that amazing anyway, so why put more skill points into it? But I kind of like it as an early damage bonus, honestly, especially because most heroes, especially carries like Skeleton King, really don't do a lot of damage in the early game, so being able to leverage out of a skill rather than having to have farm to do that is kind of useful. So the reason we're fighting over last hits a bit here is because he almost has his Midas finish, so he did get the first blood, which is why he has a lot more last hits than me, or why he has a lot more gold than me, but I believe he's just about finishing his Midas now.
Radiant's middle tower is under attack.
So, yeah, I talked about his increased int gain, I talked about his basic skill build as an outlier, and now we'll talk about the items that I'm going for and how they affect my skills and things like that. So first of all, going for a Midas on Skeleton King is actually really strong. The reason for this being, number one, you're a strength hero, so your agi gain, your agility gain is usually pretty low, and for Skeleton King it is actually very low. 1.7 agility per level is pretty bad. This means that his attack speed doesn't go up very fast as he levels up, and it also means that his armor isn't very high. We don't care about the armor very much because we can always buy an Assault Cuirass later on, and that completely covers our problems. But most importantly, the attack speed increase is very bad. If you think about an agility carry, when their agility goes up, they not only get that 1% attack speed per agility, but they also get an increase of damage. So it's really easy for them to increase their attack speed because they'll just buy an item that increases their damage and their attack speed. But strength heroes don't have it as easy. They need to buy attack speed items, and they also need to buy strength items usually, so that they increase their HP, their damage, and they also get attack speed from it. So that's usually why strength heroes will buy things like ACs or Mjolnirs, because they don't really have an inexpensive way to buy attack speed that also gives them a fair amount of damage. Like, but buying a butterfly is good for your overall DPS, but it only gives you plus 30 damage, for example. So a butterfly isn't the best thing. Usually it's better to buy things that also tank you up massively, like an AC, while allowing you to push. So I decided to buy a Midas this game, partially because it's a pub and you should be having fun in pubs, but also partially because it's very valuable on strength heroes. It covers it solves two problems. Number one, it levels me up a lot, which means that my important secondary skills like Vampiric Aura, Mortal Strike are going to get leveled up faster. And it also means that I'll be more quickly getting to level 16. So when you hit level 16, your cooldown on your ulti is only 60 seconds. So that means that every 60 seconds, you can die and come back if you have 140 seconds without actually dying. So this makes you a huge threat in team fights, because your opponents can't necessarily just jump on you and kill you really fast. I have to be slightly concerned about the fact that there's a PL on the enemy team, because he can drain my mana, and if your mana is drained below 140 when you die, you just die. So you have to keep that in mind. It's really important that your mana pool is actually legitimate. So ignoring that fact, again, Midas gives you a lot of experience, and getting these levels of Crit Strike or Mortal Strike up quickly and Vampiric Aura up really quickly is really useful. And again, Hannah Midas gives you attack speed, and attack speed is definitely something that Skeleton King needs. And if you look at the amount of attack speed it gives, it's really not that bad. If you compare it to a Hyperstone, for example. A Hyperstone costs 2,000 gold, and it gives you 55 attack speed. A Hannah Midas costs 1,900 gold, and it gives you 30 attack speed. So it's about half, a little bit better than half of the attack speed that a Hyperstone would give, but it also gives you a big gold increase, which over the long term can be very nice. And this is one reason why Midas on carries is almost never a really bad thing. It depends on the carry, of course, but a lot of strength carries, Hannah Midas is always a good thing to do in the safe lane if you have free farm. So don't be too scared about getting a Midas on a hard carry strength hero. It usually will pay off. Kind of, you can argue the same thing for agility heroes, int heroes, because they actually don't usually have the best agility gain either. So that talks about why I think Midas is good. Midas also does another important thing that strength treads usually covers, or treads covers, and that's give you, again, attack speed. So because I grabbed a Midas instead of grabbing a treads, I think I can actually completely skip out on the treads for a while. And this game I actually ended up delaying my treads for quite a while, and that's just because I simply wanted to have a bit quicker of it's hard to explain. I wanted other factors of items to pile in and be useful before I wanted more extra attack speed. Like, once you get one attack speed item, your hero becomes pretty darn good at attacking rapidly. So you don't necessarily need multiples, in my opinion. I'd rather grab one attack speed item and then grab a utility item, essentially. The item I decided to go immediately after the Midas is actually a drum. And I thought about this a lot over the last 12 hours. I wasn't completely sure how to explain this to you guys, because I wasn't completely sold on the point myself, but basically I wanted to grab a drum immediately after the Midas because I wanted to solve a couple problems. Number one, I wanted more int. If we look at my current mana pool, I'm sitting at a little over 400, and if we think about how many casts this gives me, every cast is 140, whether that's a blast or my ulti. So hypothetically, we'll say I cast my stun twice in a team fight, that's 280, then I'll have about 130, 140 mana left over with a wand, which means I'll be able to ult. But I'd really like to get that amount higher. I'd like to be able to throw 3 stuns and ult, if possible. So if you buy a drum, it not only solves the problem of int, but it solves the next problem, which is movement speed. Skeleton King is actually a hero that's very, very easily kited, and this is going to be your main issue when you end up playing him in any pub, is that an opponent will see a Skeleton King and they'll just run away from you, or they'll stun you and then they'll run away from you, or they'll slow you and they'll run away from you. And since your movement speed is really not that high, there's not that much you can do to solve this problem, essentially. Like, my movement speed is, what, 350 with a regular boots, which isn't very good at all. So I need some way, preferably, to be a bit faster, and drum really solves that for you. It only gives you 5% extra movement speed, which is like 15 movement speed, but 15 movement speed is honestly not too bad, considering that buying the drum is also useful for the other stats. And again, it gives you strength, it gives you agility for more attack speed. A drum gives you 14% attack speed naturally with 9 agility and the 5% aura, so the attack speed is good, The strength is pretty good, the damage is okay, and the int is really nice. So as a whole, Drum after Midas is really good on a lot of heroes, and this is one of the reasons that we see it all the time on Lifestealer. Lifestealer has the same issues. His strength gain isn't amazing, so a bit of a strength boost is nice. The extra int is really useful because he can use open wounds and rage more often, and the agility is also not something that he would ever pass up. So this is actually the real PL. I wasn't completely sure at the time. He just kind of came up the last hit, and I was like, oh, hey, it's a PL, whatever. I'll just gonna continue to last hit here. Wasn't too worried about this. I believe it was around this moment that I checked to see that he did actually have a Midas as well. He was on Midas Tread, so he's about the same farm as me. Of course, a lot of my gold is in my bank rather than being on my hero. But now because of this big EXP gain of using the Midas on neutrals, I'm already level 10, and this means that my crit is already maxed out. And to talk about Skeleton King more as a hero rather than this game specifically, he's actually not a bad carry, and I promise you on that one. And the reason is because two of his skills are very, very focused towards him being a carry. And this is something that not a lot of carries actually have themselves. But basically, Skeleton King's two abilities are items in themselves. So if you think about buying items on a typical hero, you'll be like, oh, maybe I should get a Daedalus, maybe I should get Lifesteal. I don't have to do that because if I have 8 skill points, 4 in Lifesteal and 4 in crit, I already have better crits than almost all of those heroes, and better crit than a Daedalus, and I've also got better lifesteal than all of those things, with the exception of Satanic and the Satanic Burst. Obviously, those items give other things that are really good, but for a hero like Skeleton King, having a crit with 4 skill points is super cost efficient, because that means I just have to buy a couple damage items, and all of a sudden I can be a real threat, and it actually allows me to be pretty useful. So I was trying to scare the PL into thinking that I was going to use a stun on him. I actually thought that was a real one the whole time, but he had actually, long before he used his invis. I didn't realize that at the time, but again, I was just trying to bait him out here. So yeah, buying those items are really good. Actually, I didn't realize I did this. I forgot about this. I actually bought a Shadow Blade first, rather than buying the drum. So this kind of slightly goes against everything I just talked about, slightly, but I can explain myself. I do buy a drum later, but the reason I wanted to buy the Shadow Blade first and foremost is because I wanted to be able to snowball kills and hopefully try to catch my team out, because we are actually behind right now. So if I buy a Shadow Blade really rapidly, and I can use it to get kills, then it's going to pay off as like a second hand of Midas, essentially. It's going to give me a second way to increase my gold farm, and that's going to be, instead of farming creeps, by farming heroes. So I'm going to drop my Gauntlet very briefly here, pick up my Shadow Blade, and I'm going to run to the bot lane and hopefully try to help me out. Worst case scenario is I initiate and die, and that would suck. And there's not really too much I can do about that, but this is another reason why I do end up getting drum afterwards, is because when you integrate Shadow Blade into a hero that actually has a bit of a mana problem, then you definitely will need a drum to compensate that slightly. So I think Shadow Blade with those heroes is pretty useful. So a lot of these heroes are actually very full HP. My chances of initiating on them with Shadow Blade is very unlikely, which is why I'm not going in. But I want to kind of wait to see if any of my allies end up helping out here. Looking to scout them out, and there we see the Timbersaw, but he's still with the Invoker. I'm not entirely sure we spotted them, but my Shadow Blade ended anyway, so I'm just going to go hit up the jungle. Actually, PL is still farming top, so my first foray out with my Shadow Blade didn't really prove to be very useful. Shadow Blade has been nerfed recently, by the way. The cooldown on the activation is way higher. It's at 28 seconds instead of 18, so you have to use it a lot more selectively, but the item solves a lot of my problems, and the problems being it's pretty much impossible for a Skeleton King to initiate without either having a Force Staff or a Blink Dagger. There's a bunch of heroes right next to me. I'm going to spot a Forge Spirit here, and then I'm going to go look for a possible kill, since my guy's getting ganked here. I decide to go on the PL. My ulti pops. Oh, the PL actually died. Midas is really useful against Forge Spirits here. And I used my Shadow Blade. I'm going to wait until I have another stun. I misclicked a little bit there. I almost lost that kill because I misclicked on the map, but yeah, Shadow Blade gives you a lot of potential offensive capabilities. It gives you 150 bonus hit, I think. Yeah, 150 bonus damage for the next attack. So whenever you're breaking invis with it, you should always hit and then stun, always. So I did the same thing on the Nature's Prophet. I chased after him, I hit him for a bonus damage, and then I stunned immediately afterwards.
Radiant's top tower is
Ends up
under
working out
attack.
really nicely, and the Shadow Blade actually paid off pretty hard in that fight, like really, really hard. I was able to get some kills. I didn't end up dying. Well, I did, but it was just my ulti, so no big loss there. All around a really good moment. So I'm going to pop Wand, I'm going to Shadow Blade here to possibly initiate. He ended up taking that kill.
Tower is under attack.
I thought we'd maybe trace that longer, so I popped a drum. Slight mistake, oh well. My mana's actually pretty low at this point, but again, my stats all around are really solid. I've got the drum plus 9. I get attack speed from Shadow Blade as well, so I have attack speed here. I have 30 attack speed here, and now I have 14 attack speed from the Drum of Endurance as well. So all around, huge attack speed increases without having to buy treads. And I will buy treads eventually, possibly right now. Yep, I bought treads now because that's the next purchase. And now I have 4 attack speed items on a hero that actually has pretty crappy agility gain, but it all works out okay. My damage isn't super high right now, but with Critical Strike, it's definitely, or Mortal Strike, it's actually going to be pretty useful. So,
Because at this point, why not?
so now I have to be a little bit more concerned about how to deal with the PL in the late game, because PL's been farming really well. If we look at some stats, for example, net worth, I'm actually by far ahead of PL by about 2,000 gold, but doesn't mean that he can't catch up at all. And they actually have, I think, at least 2 or 3 heroes that have Midases. They actually have 3 Midases on their team. Invoker, Phantom Lancer, and Nature's Prophet, which aren't that unusual heroes to carry a Midas. So it makes sense. All those heroes kind of need EXP, or at least can get EXP. I think the PL Midas is really greedy personally, but it's something that you can do if you have a really easy farm game. And I'm actually critting really hard right now. I'm hitting for 350 on crits, which some of these heroes is actually like half their HP. So fight starting, I need to show up if possible. I'm going to be pretty late, but I can try to get there. We do end up killing the PL, which is great. Invoker revealing that he knew where I was. Able to kill him. That was 800 gold, by the way. That's really lucky for me. I'll just take a camp quick, because we're not going to start any more fights, basically. I knew that they were unlikely to catch anybody else, and if they did, I wouldn't necessarily be there. So, get another camp. We should be able to take a mid tower. All looks pretty good. I can also do tread switching now if I need to. I can switch to int treads before I cast, things like that. Some action going on top. I could TP for this. Could also just sit here and farm. I'm not really that worried about getting ganked because I do have my ulti back up again. And I do have a Shadow Blade. It's still fairly early. They're going to be forced to buy dust and sentries and things like that if they want to deal with me. So now I'm basically going to try to lead off the Nature's Prophet. As long as he can remain unstunned until I get there, it's going to be all good. Was able to get the kill there. And again, just Midasing the Forge Spirits is really good to do. They're very difficult to kill in most cases, so if you do get a Midas, definitely Midas those. I love stack camps, by the way. Again, I'm lifestealing for 30%, which is huge. A typical lifesteal is like 17%, so this is almost double what you're typically going to see out of a regen item. So Skeleton King really doesn't worry about jungling at all. It's really not a big deal. His armor's actually okay here at 8 as well, since my agility is not horrible. I think my starting agility is actually pretty good, is what's happening. So I'm going to TP to the bot lane and looking to initiate here. Again, going to use int treads first. And I want to go on the squishy heroes if possible. That's going to be Nature's Prophet. He has far less HP than the rest of them. And a little attack moving in between hits, and hopes that I'll be able to get him. He's healing a bit. Fortunately he was able to get out. The Earth Spirit cleans up too on that. I could have a Quelling Blade at this point, especially against a Nature's Prophet. That's one really easy way to ignore a Skeleton King, is basically just sprout him in and force him to buy Quelling or use a Quelling Blade, but I really didn't want to have to do that, so despite losing a kill there because I didn't have a Quelling, I decided to be a little bit more greedy and continue doing what I was doing. So
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
So now I'm going to go into my next items. The item that I chose to make after the Shadow Blade is going to be a Battle Fury. And the reason I want to make a Battle Fury is because I want an easy way to be able to counteract the peel. I also saw this Leshrac really pushing up far, and I knew at this point when he came back to the creep wave again that I was going to be able to get this kill. Always hit first, throw the stun, follow up, and see what you can do. He did a nice job stunning me, but unfortunately for him, I'm actually really fast, especially with my
Dire's middle
drum.
tower is under attack.
And I knew there was a pretty good chance that I would just be able to clean him up here. And I found enemy heroes. This is actually really scary because he did have his diffusal blade at this point. But I'm just going to right click the PL a little bit, force him to go invis, and then I can maybe get out of here.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack.
I knew that one was fake as soon as it stopped moving on the high ground. It was obviously an illusion, so. And now I can get a little lifesteal on the creeps before I go all the way back to base, so. This is DK, by the way, if you guys are wondering why you kept trolling me. So despite us losing a hero, maybe, the fight still went pretty good. And I actually have all of the money that I need for a Battle Fury. Battle Fury is only about 4,300 gold, but the item is actually really good for Skeleton King. Not in all circumstances, but as a whole, it's a pretty good damage and farming item. It's not really recommended to buy an item like Mjolnir on this hero, and the reason is because Mjolnir you can't crit on. So that lightning burst that'll jump through, you don't crit on that 150 magic damage. Whereas a Battle Fury accomplishes similar things, but you do get to crit on the damage. The plus 65 that you get from the item, you get the full damage output. And the HP and mana regen is actually quite useful, especially the mana regen, because my int is actually not bad. I've got 41 plus 11, so if I get a bunch of mana regen out of that item, it's all around not a bad item. And my items don't look that strong particularly, but it lets me be very mobile. I'm running at 367 movement speed. I can get a burst with the drum to go up to 400 if I need to, and I can actually farm really, really fast now, especially because of crit. So while having the Battle Fury and the passive crit, I essentially have turned my Battle Fury into a Daedalus with a Battle Fury, more or less, without the Daedalus damage component. So it's all around not bad. I'm gonna find some enemy heroes. I'm gonna go straight for the Leshrac because he's really, really squishy and easy for me to kill. And I'm critting for about 580 right now. So a really nice start to the fight there. Now we're starting to get split pushed a little bit, so we have to deal or put some attention into this, at least a little, because it is kind of resulting in us losing a lot. But I'm going to try to get across the map. I don't have a TP scroll, unfortunately, so I won't be able to end up going to defend the top lane, but instead we just say we'll take a Roshan. This is maybe a bit of a mistake because they're going to be doing tower damage as a result, but I don't really have a way to go back because I just have a magic stick. So on the bright side, however, I can kill this really fast, and I actually didn't want to take the Aegis. I told them that I didn't want it, basically.
Immortality.
Did some really good damage there. Did Tusk also have? Okay, he also has a Shadow Blades. That was 2 invisible heroes ganking the Invoker just now. Really unfortunate for him, but great for us. But yeah, this is what you should be doing. Always Shadow Blade in. Like, on some games that I play Skeleton King, I try to not get Shadow Blade, and it always goes so bad. Because you have no chance of snowballing. There's no opportunity, usually, where your opponents are going to be stupid enough to let you right-click them until they die. Or because, like, against a normal support hero, you're going to have to throw a stun while you're closing the gap, and then you get into melee range, you get maybe 1 hit off, and then they're going to throw their stun, and then you'll chase them again and wait for your stun cooldown again. It just really elongates the process. It's so much better if you can start the battle in melee range and then stun them immediately and get an extra 3 or 4 hits. At that point, they should be at half HP or something, if not farther if you crit, and it really makes the whole kill process a lot easier. So definitely go for a Shadow Blade on this hero. I really think it's the best build to go. I'm not sure if that's the case for high competitive matches, but at least for pubs, I think it's the way to go, for sure. So I'm just going to keep Midasing the big creep. I don't really have to at this point, because any level that I get is really just giving me stats, but it's not bad. It doesn't really matter. I can kill all the creeps pretty much equally fast at this point, because of the fact of having the Shadow Blade. So I'm going to go for a kill on the Nature's Prophet now, because the hero is still pretty weak. He doesn't have very many items, and I have killed him before. Again, starting with a melee and following up. And I got 1 crit in there, which ends up being a really, really easy kill. So that was pretty fun.
Radiant's bottom tower is under attack. Radiant structures are fortified.
I do have a lot of farm. EXP per minute is ridiculous at 800. My gold per minute is 630 right now. Considering that my hero is much more of a brawler than a farmer, it's really good. Really good farm right now. Looks like we actually have a fight in the middle lane. I don't know if that guy's gonna die. So I'll try to get there for this. Or I'll just farm Ancients because I can. Not sure. So since they have a tower up, I'm just going to walk all the way around here. I can't dive right out the tower, and I want to try to get into melee range with somebody if possible. So I'm going to approach the Timber. We were able to get him. Pretty cool. I mean, you might as well try for stuff like that, especially when you have mana regen. I've got 6.7 mana per second. So that means in, 10 seconds is 60 mana. Or 67 mana. So basically, every 20 seconds, I'll have enough for another Hellfire Blast. So throwing stuns at this point is actually really fine. I could even use them on creeps if I wanted to. I saw that Leshrac had a bunch of wards, so my guess was that he was going over here to ward. So I was going to go see if he's in here. This is way less climactic when you can actually see him at all times, but I checked in here to see if he was here, and there he was. So I get a really easy kill on him. That was just a little bit of intuition. I kind of had to run this way in my opinion. So I was scared they would come mid on me, but they actually TP'd. And with Iron Shells, or I'm sorry, with Cold Snap, you really have to run away from stuff like this. A little tread switching here. And now I'm going to turn on him. Again, melee range initiation breaks are super crucial. Like, an Invoker is a really scary hero as a Skeleton King, because the guy does mini stuns, mini stuns, mini stuns, and then he has the Forge Spirit to reduce my armor, and he attacks from range. It's really difficult to deal with in most cases, but if I can just break Invis on melee range and just stun him immediately, his Forge Spirits can't kill me that fast, not even close. So that was really, really easy kill. You just gotta back out, make him think you're retreating, and then you go aggressive again. And you should only do this when you're really snowballing hard, but I knew at this point that I was very far ahead. So this is where I've made my first item build mistake in the whole game, I think. My choice here was to purchase an MKB, and I decided to buy an MKB. By the way, I was looking at these creeps, and I saw which one was the real one because he was doing a lot of damage. It was really close. I maybe should have stunned first, rather than attacking and then stunning. He actually reacted fast enough to survive there. But if my stun would have landed, there's an okay chance that he just would have died. So it's got to be pretty scary for him. But I decided to buy an MKB first because I really wanted to make sure that the PL wasn't going to be able to grab a butterfly and just completely evade my damage. Because if he grabs evasion, then I'm not lifestealing and all this stuff. So it becomes really tough to deal with. I'm going to go high ground here because I want to make sure I have vision of him when I do this. Unfortunately for me, he went high ground.
Has fallen. Dire's middle tower is under attack.
He actually got global ultied by the Silencer because Silencer had an Eggs. It's basically a way to globally do 300 damage to every hero. So that's why the Silencer went for that kill. But yeah, I decided to buy the MKB because I wanted True Strike. It also increases my attack speed very slightly. It also does increase my critical number, since you do hit pretty hard. So I don't think this is the right choice, though. I should have gone Abyssal Blade immediately. And the reason Abyssal Blade is really scary is because in conjunction with the Shadow Blade, you can break Invis, you can stun for 2 seconds, and then you can use the Abyssal Blade to stun for another 2 seconds. It's really, really strong. And if I did that instead of MKB, I would have had reliable kills on any single hero in this whole game. None of these heroes could have stopped me from 4-second stunning and DPSing with the items that I had, but instead I went for an MKB, which I think was the wrong choice. I did see them dust, by the way, so I knew that they did know that I was coming, but I was just going to back off briefly and wait for another Invis cooldown so that I could initiate and not have them know that I was on the way. So I didn't really want to walk in with them seeing me visually, so I decided to play it a bit safe. Alright, and now I'm going to viz on through. I think I did see that PL.
Dire's bottom tower has fallen.
So I was guessing that he was going over here to farm one of the jungles, which I have confirmed. As you guys can see, I have a little bit more farm than the enemy PL. I actually thought he was an illusion there. Actually thought he was an illusion. I did get a bit lucky on the crit. It's 15% though. So that means about every 8, I think, if I'm not mistaken. It's like 15, 30, that's 60 is 4, 6. It's like every 7. Every 6 to 7 hits, you'll get a crit, on average. So, yeah, if I did get an Abyssal, though, I would have more reliable kills. It's also an instant cast as well if you want to do Abyssal first and then follow it up with the Hellfire Blast. You can do that instead, but regardless of grabbing the MKB first, it guaranteed me that if the PL was making a Butterfly, it'd be fine. I should have checked his items and been like, okay, he's going to finish Manta first, and then he's going to start a Butterfly. So I had, like, easily plenty of time to make a Abyssal Blade first, but whatever, I made an MKB.
Radiant structures are fortified.
They are counter-pushing in the meantime, but we should be able to just beast down their waves.
Radiant's bottom tower has fallen. Radiant's bottom barracks are under attack. Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
Just want to kill the Forge Spirits at the start so they don't mess around with us. And killing the PL Illusions as well. And I saw they had a Necro 3, so I was trying to avoid that so it didn't see me. And then I just said, whatever, I'll kill it. I'm a Skeleton King, even if I die, I'll just respawn, so why not just kill them? So I went for it. And now I'm in a really bad spot.
Radiant's bottom barracks has fallen.
So we got the bot racks pretty easily. I have some more creeps respawning, so I'm just gonna lifesteal on them a small amount. My armor is actually still not very good here, but it's okay. By the way, I've been playing more of a ganking Skeleton King rather than a teamfight farming one, or rather than a teamfight one. So if you wanted to grab an AC instead of one of these items, it's actually really good. I don't know why the guy had an Observer Ward on the low ground. Maybe that was when I killed him. I'm not sure. Yeah, but AC is actually really strong on Skeleton King as well. If you don't have as many, attack speed items like I have this game, then grabbing an AC is just fine. Like AC Armlet Desolator, for example, is a very good build. It's very different than the Shadowblade one, but if you're going for more of a teamfight build rather than, or pushing teamfight build rather than like a ganking one like I have this game, then I recommend doing stuff like AC. It's not bad at all. It's honestly an item that you can swap out depending on your circumstances. In this case though, I actually need an item slot for my Abyssal Blade. It's definitely worth picking up, so I was thinking, do I sell my Hand of Midas, do I sell my Drum? At this point, the Hand of Midas I think gives me still more than the Drum does, so I decided to sell the Drum. And this will give me an AC, or I'm sorry, an Abyssal Blade. And I saw a free kill, so I figured I'd have to go for it, right?
Middle tower is under attack.
Just wait till I'm almost in creep vision, and then I'll Shadow Blade. He does have detection, by the way, so I can't get in melee range to stun him. I'm gonna have to stun from range. There it is, and I was able to stun him right before he sprouted, and now I just want to stay in melee range with him, just to guarantee. And now I get a really easy kill. So that's the other solution towards beating a Nature's Prophet, is that you just have to stay in melee range and you're gonna be okay. I crit that for 1,000 damage. It's ridiculous. Looks like all the rest of our heroes in their base ended up dying, so game is delayed. Alright, so now I have an Abyssal Blade, I have a Hand of Midas for more farm, I still have good attack speed, it's being reduced slightly because of the fact that I do have a Midas, and at this point I don't have a TP scroll slot, so I decided to sell my Treads and purchase a Boots of Travel instead. Again, you could argue with whether this is correct or not. It does cut my attack speed down by a lot, but it gives me 50 movement speed, which is a big advantage. It's actually a lot more than the Drum gave me. Drum gave me like 15, so I get like 50 movement speed out of the Boots of Travel. I almost denied this tower, but then I decided against it because the detection would be nice. That's the main reason you want to keep those towers up. So my attack speed is now slower, but it's still pretty good. And I have the main reason you grab an Abyssal Blade is for the reliable 2-second stun. You don't necessarily buy it for the bash chance. It depends on the hero, of course, but for Skeleton King and the playstyle that I'm playing him as this game, I really wanted it for the reliable stun so that I could break invis, stun, and then use another stun. I don't know if I ever did that at all this game, but like the option was there. The option was totally there if I needed. Abyssal Blade's also really good on crit heroes because it gives you 100 damages, plus 100. It gives you 10 strength actually, so it gives me 110 damage as a strength hero. So I can use this very, very easily. So it's pretty fun for that.
Top tower is under attack.
Looks like we have a hero hiding on the corner of the map because he doesn't want to die anymore. Maybe I've terrorized him a few too many times.
Radiant's top tower has fallen.
See some heroes mid. Some go shift on over.
Radiant's top tower is under attack.
And then he just kind of killed himself. I was really sad about that one. I was like, Thought for sure he was going to stay alive long enough for me to kill him, but didn't happen. So, too bad. And at this point I decided to make an AC as my last item, so... Yeah, I think AC really rounds out my item builds really well. Again, you don't need to get crit, and you don't need to get lifesteal, so you're 2 items down already. I still have a farming item with a Battle Fury. I have a Shadow Blade, which in lots of late game scenarios people have to sell. I have an Abyssal Blade. I'm going to have an AC, and I'm going to have AC for large armor boost to myself, and a Monkey King bar to make sure that I have True Strike. So it's one of the really nice things about Skeleton King. You don't have to buy... Like, his item build is very fluid. You can get a lot of different things. Like, you don't have to go this item build if you don't want to. I think Shadow Blade with Drum is, dare I say, necessary, but there's a lot of other things that you can avoid if you really want to. So, I thought there was some action going on here, and then it just kind of looked like everybody died. So I was sad about that. And then we spotted the PL killing our courier, so I was like, okay, well, I'll just go see if this guy's over here still.
With my return.
Instead, I'm just going to right-click me, he's going to die, and that's it. That's it. I was a little confused about that, but it worked out okay. And I think I can buy the rest of the AC. Yes, I can. So, needless to say, I decided I wanted to be 6-slotted before this game ends, so back to the phone to 6-slot. This also increases my attack speed and makes up a bit for having the boots of travel, so that's why I wanted to get the AC before the game ended. It's a nice adjustment. I'm also level 25. My EXP per minute's like ridiculous. Less gold per minute, it's like 800.
Radiant's Ancient is under attack.
I also want to initiate invisible, so I don't want to TP where it's visible. I don't want them to know that I'm here.
Under attack.
And I'm going to stay out of vision range as well. So slightly to the left here.
Radiant's Ancient is under attack.
Oh, wow, he actually had a gem, that's funny.
Dire victory.
Sorry guys, that wasn't a real death. It's a fake death. See, I'm alive. Alright, so I think that's the best way to play Skeleton King. About to be Wraith King, possibly. Just focus on a Shadow Blade with a little bit of mana pool, and that'll allow you to go around ganking the map, or at least fighting a little bit more usefully. Again, if you initiate in melee range and you can stun immediately afterwards, you get way more hits off before before your opponents have a chance to react. So, in most cases, just attack and then stun. If you're really worried that they're going to phase shift or blink away or something, then all you have to do is stun first. Break the invis by stunning. It's usually what some Nyx Assassins do in really high level games because people can react in time. Or if they have a BKB or something like that and you're worried about them BKBing, just stun first and you'll be okay, usually. So, yep, that's Skeleton King. I wanted to make a video before they drastically change him. Now you guys understand the true way to play the man. Feel free to swap out your boot choices if you want different ones. Phase can be useful as well if you want a bit more movement speed. I really like treads though for the attack speed, but yeah, I think that's about it. So thanks for watching, guys. I appreciate it. I'll have more stream videos up for you guys later this week, and I'm going home for Christmas in 10 days, so I'm going to try to make videos while I'm there. I'll bring my laptop with, so the audio quality will go down again, but at least you guys still have some content to watch. And I think that's all for now. Thanks for watching. See you guys later. Bye.